All right, everybody doing well? Fantastic. I'm going to just go ahead and dive in. And I wanted to start by acknowledging that we had the students in the youth group a couple weeks ago fill out this survey. And so as you're flipping through the packet, those surveys in the blue are from the students. So our students, your children, that's who those are from. There's going to be some other survey things that are mentioned. Those are not from our students. So that's like a larger poll. But the items in blue, those are from your students, so our children. And just to encourage you, we're out better than average. So, the world is, here, we're here. And so that's, good job. And there's some things in there that are alarming, and there's other things that I was really encouraged by. But as we're going through that, just understand that this is our students. And so just to sort of start things off by, asking you guys as parents a question, we asked the students which apps and websites were popular amongst their peers. So these are websites that they would say is important. In the top 4, there's really no surprise. Instagram was like the far and away the leader, followed by Snapchat, YouTube, and Facebook. But can someone that's not a teenager raise their hand and just want to venture to guess at what would be number 5, 6, 7, or 8? See how well we understand and know what's popular. Tinder? No, not amongst our students, thankfully. Whew. Yes. What? No. Not Twitter. Not Tweeter. So I'm looking for it older. Pinterest? No. That one was on there. Homeschool girls. What else? Fortnite. Yes, he's a kid, so he gets. Of course, that was on there. Amazon was not in the top 8, although it did make the list. Did you put that, Jacob? What else? WhatsApp? No, that one didn't make it. Musical.ly did not. It made the list, but not the top 8. Is it Discord? Yes, it is Discord. Discord was one of them. The other ones surrounded the top 8. There's Clash Royale, Discord, Fortnite, and Roblox. Roblox. I'm sorry. Roblox. And so if you don't know what these are, your students do. And there's between these ones in the top 4, there's good and there's bad involved in there, but it's partly our responsibility as parents to sort of know these things and to teach our students and to be involved with the things that they're involved in. We can turn to Deuteronomy 6, 7. It says, repeat them, talking about the commands to your children. Talk about them when you sit in your house and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. So as parents, like to instruct our children, the New Testament emphasizes this as well. Ephesians 6:4 says, fathers, don't stir up anger in your children. I was like, whoa. But bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. So this is us as parents. Like this is given to us. And so if we are sending our kids off to school and expecting the teachers to straighten it out, or even sending your kids to youth group and expecting myself or the small group leaders to sort of correct everything in their lives, we're really, really going to miss out on what God has called us to do as parents. And you are with them nearly 24/7. You have authority over their lives that teachers don't have, small group leaders don't have, coaches don't have. And I want to say to you, you have a responsibility to be involved in their life. And so when you hand over something to them, like a cell phone or a tablet, there's responsibility that comes with that on their part, and there's huge responsibility that comes with that on your part. So we're going to talk to you as parents about what your responsibility is. I'm going to talk to the students about what your responsibility is with those things as well. But that's our role as parents. And before we get too far ahead, I want you to know if you have any questions at all during this time, feel free to text this number, 618-7619, with that question. And if we have time at the end, we'll answer as many of those questions as possible. But if you want to write that number down, that's the last time it'll be on the screen. 618-7619. I'm going to text those questions over. Everyone got it? All right, cool. So on the first page you have, on the right side, you'll see some of those statistics. The first one is on a scale of 1 to 10, how effective are your parents at monitoring what you view on your devices? So from the student's perspective, you're doing a 6.5. And on that, there's 8% of the students that said you're doing a 1, and so not monitoring at all. And then on the flip side, 15% gave you guys a 9 or a 10, and I'm sure that there's all different types of parenting in the room and in youth ministry, but that's sort of where our group stands. And so as an average, it's about a 6.5, and obviously we want that number to be as high as possible, so we're going to equip you guys with some of the tools to make that a little bit higher. On a scale of 1 to 10, how open are you with your parents about what you view on the internet? They thought they were more open. No surprise there. I think maybe they padded that a little bit. A 7.1. So of course I'm always open with my parents. Would your parents approve of everything you view on the internet? 52% said yes, 48% said no. And would your parents approve of text messages you've sent or received? And about the same statistics there. And one of the things I want you guys to know, there's one statistic that's sort of an anomaly. But the rest of them, it doesn't really matter if they're a boy or a girl, if they're junior high or high school, if their parents are super involved or not super involved. A lot of these things that they're dealing with, it's just a wide spectrum. And so if you're like, no, my junior high girl, I don't have to talk to her about this because this is just like a high school boy issue, it's not. If you think I don't have to talk to my son about this because this is more like girl drama, like it's not the case. Like we can't be blind to the reality that sin is trying to reach all of our students, and it comes at a really, really shockingly young age. So I'm going to move right along and actually I want to make sure that we understand what we're doing here. And if you're looking for this as parents to just sort of be like an easy fix-all, and I'm going to come and I'm going to tell you like the perfect app to download for your student's phone, and it's going to fix all of their desire to go on and look at pornography or to have people, stalk them online or to people bully them online. Like it's not going to happen. There's no magic app that just fixes the heart of your child. It's going to take a lot of work. And so there's some tools that we have that sort of hinder those things, but no tool is perfect. And then students, if you're here and you're thinking like, wow, this is going to be a great fix-all. If I could get the correct blockers on my phone, I never have to worry about struggling and temptation ever again. It's not the case. Like talk to your parents, your grandparents. Before cell phones were around, temptation was still around. It's still an issue. It's still a problem. And so what really needs to be done is addressing the hearts. And that's why we want to start by talking about fighting with the gospel. Fighting with the gospel and understanding that without the gospel, none of this stuff matters. We could set up blocker after blocker after blocker. We can have, no cell phone till you're 35, no tablets allowed at night. So you could have no television, no movies, can't, connect to the internet at the library or at school. Like you could set up all sorts of restrictions. But unless the gospel has taken root in your heart and your child's heart, it's going to be ineffective. And so as you are parenting, I want to encourage you, rather than just simply look for barriers to sin, to actually use the gospel to attack sin in their life. And to really ask the question of what made you want to look at that? What made you want to hide this relationship from me? What made you want to protect your friend who is clearly doing some evil things? All right, and so to begin to address the heart issue there, to use this opportunity to talk about the gospel, to preach the gospel over and over and over again to your child, and then allow Jesus to transform the heart, because without him, none of these things are going to stick. It's not going to work. And so as we fight temptation with the gospel, we have to remember 1 Corinthians 10:13 says, "No temptation has come upon you except what is common to humanity, but God is faithful. He will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able, but with the temptation, he will also provide a way out so that you will be able to bear it." And so it's not a question of if some of these things your child is going to see some of these things. It's a matter of when they're going to see them. The average age of exposure to pornography is only 11 years old. And so if you're in this room, odds are you have a child that is over 11. And it's just a sort of a ticking time bomb about when it's going to be exposed. I remember I was at Desert Christian, and I had my first exposure to pornography. One of not even a friend, just some random dude at school, had it printed out on paper, and he's like flipping through them, and he's like, hey, look at this, look at this, look at this. And I was like, where did you get that? And he's like, the internet. And I was like, I have that at home. And it's just like in a matter of moments, you start putting these connections together. And I was right around that 11, 12 years old and first exposed to it. And then, years later, my parents talk about the dangers of it. But by then, the exposure had already happened. So it's not a matter of if it will happen, but a matter of when. Understand to fight sin with the gospel, and then to encourage you as parents and students. The goal here is once we're on the same page with the gospel, we should be on the same page with technology and device usage, right? I'm not here to do a cell phone burning. I'm not here to smash all your tablets. I'm not here to say to turn off your internet. I love the internet. I love technology. I love having a cell phone. I love being able to connect with people across the country and across the world. I'm not about that, but students, understand that if you are a believer, right, and your parents are believers, like you have the same goal of protecting your purity here, right? That's the end goal here. So you're not enemies with your parents, right? Don't view your parents as someone that is restricting you from being able to access what you want to access. But think of your parents as people that are there to protect you from unrighteousness and allow you to have the maximum amount of freedom inside that safe zone. Right? So that area where you can browse the internet safely, where you can search apps safely, where you can download things safely, where you can hang out with your friends in a virtual way in a safe manner. That's the end goal here. We're not trying to restrict you. We don't want to have, this Satan lives in your cell phone, and so let's smash it with a hammer type of moment here. That's not the goal, but we have to get on that same page. And so some tips to fight temptation with the gospel. The first tip would be just spend time in prayer with your family. Like combat what the world is putting in, right? We're watching movies, we're watching Netflix, TV shows, the internet, like faces and devices all the time. Like be sure to counteract that with God, right? Counteract that with Jesus, making sure that we're having healthy conversations. It's easy for teenagers to, when they get around each other, just to quote movies back and forth to each other. And it's easy for parents and students to have meaningless conversations as well. And so if we can make an effort, I'm not going to tell you, every day for 30 minutes or every week for an hour, like whatever is right for your family. Be sure to set time away. It's just allow God to use you as a parent as a leadership role in your family to bring the gospel. And be prepared for eye rolls, right? Like, hey, it's Bible study time. Like, oh, geez, here's dad trying to be all spiritual with us. But that's okay. You're not parenting just so that they have your approval. Like you have a higher standard. God has called you to that role to repeat these commands to your children, to bring them up in righteousness. And so if they roll their eyes 99 days in a row, like on that 100th day, you're still, hey, it's time for Bible study. It's time for our 15-second prayer in the morning before everyone goes to school and work. Like this is what we're going to do. We're going to let God have an open door into our family to speak life into the family, combat what is evil in the world. Read the Bible together, right? Reading the Bible, getting that positive influence in your life, and then using social media, using technology, using text messages for good, right? When they're at school, just, here's a Bible verse. And again, maybe you get the eye rolls, but maybe that's what they need at that moment. Right? Maybe they've been bombarded with other things at school, other things at soccer practice, and you can come in with this encouragement and to say, look, here's a verse that I read this morning. Here's what Pastor Madison preached about yesterday. Like here's just a simple verse, or I love you. Remember, that I'll always be there. Whatever message you want to send, it could be corny, but that's okay. That's our job as parents, just to be a little corny sometime and mushy and. I have a 3-year-old at home, and I get to say all the world's corniest things to her, and right now she loves it. So take advantage of that. Use it for good. Student tips. Understand when it's needed to take a break. Like we talk a lot about fasting from technology and putting your cell phone away. I would encourage you guys to evaluate your life, your standing with God, your relationship with Him, how strong that is, and based on that, say, like, I should turn off, my cell phone for the next day. I should turn it off for the next week. I should turn off all internet for, a month, whatever it is. Just evaluate your life and decide, like, is technology encroaching into my spiritual life with God? Is it hindering my walk with him? And if it is, don't be afraid to get rid of it. Don't be afraid to turn it off for a moment or even for an extended period of time. Next, addiction. We asked the students how many hours they spend on the internet, and this we got just a wide range. There's quite a few that had 1 hour or 1.5 hours, and then we had people that put 12 hours plus. We had people just not even write a number; they just wrote a lot or too much, and so it sort of skewed. How do you quantify a lot? So we put 30. I'm just kidding. No, but the average was 4.2 hours a day. Spent on social media, spent with tech on the internet, searching for things. And this is just as they're sitting there trying to evaluate their day and how much time they spend on it. They say that if you have a cell phone, you check it hundreds of times a day. Like constantly looking at it, constantly seeing it's constantly buzzing, notifications, chiming, text messages, emails, Facebook messages, Snapchat notifications, everything just coming in. But the students thought an average of 4 hours a day. But again, a huge percentage of that was 6+ hours spent a day. Do you ever use the internet in your bedroom? 83% said yes, 17% said no. And here's the sort of anomaly when it came to these statistics. The one thing that you could look at and say, okay, the students that have not yet viewed internet pornography, the students who their parents approve of what they're going on the internet for, the parents that approve of the text messages that are sent, the ones that aren't being sent explicit messages, all but one, it happened because they were not allowed to use the internet in their room. And so 83% of you in the room are about to be really upset. But that was like the one thing that we could look at and say, okay, if a student is allowed to view the internet in the room, it opens up this huge danger, right? It's not perfect, right? Things can still happen, but when that rule was made in that home, the internet is not allowed in the room. It really helped set up a barrier that evil couldn't get over, at least for now. But students are addicted, right? We're addicted. Like as parents, we have to look at ourselves and say, okay, am I setting a proper example for my student, or am I at the dinner table and my phone goes off? There's this like strong urge to say, like, I have to see what it is. I have to grab it. 1 Corinthians 6:12 says everything is permissible, right? It's not wrong for me to do this, but not everything is beneficial. Everything is permissible for me, but I will not be mastered by anything. And so like next time, parents, just for you, next time you feel your phone buzz in your pocket, ask yourself, is that mastered over me, right? Do I have to check this buzzing? Do I have to check what that notification was? When you hear the ding on your desktop computer, like, do you have to check that email? And if the answer is yes, you've been mastered by technology, and your students see that. And students, I'd ask you the same thing. When you hear your phone buzzing, like, you have to be there. You're sitting in a class and you know you're not supposed to check it, or in a movie theater, you know you're not supposed to check it, and it buzzes or it dings. Like, is there this uncontrollable urge to say, I just have to see what it is? And if it is, like, there's real signs of addiction there, and it has to be broken. I'm going to show a quick video about the addictive nature of cell phones. We can leave the lights on.
I can't stop looking at my phone, but I'm not alone. Over 2.5 billion people have smartphones now, and a lot of them are having a hard time putting them down.
There's a new app that aims to curb phone addiction.
Addiction is money.
Are we a nation of smartphone addicts?
The problem is, our devices are designed to keep us engaged. They're intentionally addicting. But if you understand the tricks that grab your attention, you can learn to have a healthier relationship with your phone.
I think we're living inside of 2 billion Truman shows, where Truman Show, you wake up and everything is sort of coordinated just for you and you usually don't even realize it. But it's coordinating just to entertain you or just to engage you.
That's Tristan Harris. He worked as Google's design ethicist, and now he runs a nonprofit initiative called Time Well Spent, advocating for awareness of how tech companies profit off of users' attention.
It's not designed to help us, it's just designed to keep us hooked.
So I handed him my phone
Yeah.
and asked him how he'd fix it. It starts with turning off all notifications, except for when a real human is trying to reach you. When you get a call, a text, or a message, it's usually because another person wants to communicate with you. But a lot of today's apps simulate the feeling of that kind of social interaction to get you to spend more time on their platform. If Facebook sends you a push notification that a friend is interested in an event near you, they're essentially acting like a puppet master, leveraging your desire for social connection so that you use the app more. But notifications didn't always work like this. When push notifications were first introduced for email on BlackBerries in 2003, they were actually seen as a way for you to check your phone less. You could easily see emails as they came in, so you didn't have to repeatedly open your phone to refresh an inbox. But today you can get notifications from any app on your phone. So every time you check it, you get this grab bag of notifications that can make you feel a broad variety of emotions.
If it wasn't random, if it was predictably bad or predictably good, then you would not get addicted. The predictability would take out the addictiveness.
That's the same logic behind slot machines. And it's effective. Slot machines make more money in the US than baseball, movies, and theme parks combined. And they become addicting about 3 to 4 times faster than other kinds of gambling. Some apps even replicate the process of pulling a slot machine lever with the pull to refresh feature. That's a conscious design choice. Those apps are usually capable of continuously updating content, but the pull action provides an addicting illusion of control over that process. In the future, we might see healthier ways of delivering notifications. Research shows that bundling notifications, where phones deliver a batch of updates at set times, reduces user stress. Then, you have to grayscale your screen. The easiest way to attract your eye's attention on a screen is through color. Human eyes are sensitive to warm colors. In eye-tracking tests like this one, they gravitate particularly to bright red. That's why so many apps have redesigned their icons to be brighter, bolder, and warmer over the years. It's also why notification bubbles are red. A little icon like this, or this, doesn't have the same impact on your attention as this. But you can neutralize that distracting effect by selecting a grayscale color filter in your phone's accessibility settings. When you make everything black and white, your brain isn't tricked into thinking this is any more important to you than this.
I mean, there's a reason why slot machines are, bright in color and have flashing lights and ding, 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 ding. And they have the sensory input too, right? And so just noticing that if I take out the color, it changes some of the addictiveness.
Finally, restrict your home screen to everyday tools.
Make sure that your home screen, when you unlock it, doesn't have anything except for the in-the-moment tools that help you live your life. I have Lyft to get somewhere when I need to get somewhere, maps, calendar. None of these are apps that I can fall into and then get sucked down in some bottomless vortex of stuff.
If you're not sure what counts as a bottomless vortex of stuff, it helps to filter out apps that use infinite scrolling. Unlike pagination, where users have to click to load new content on another page, infinite scrolling continuously loads new material, so there's no built-in endpoint. Video autoplay works in a similar way. These interfaces create a frictionless experience, but they also reduce a user's sense of control and make it harder to stop. Research shows that people rely on visual cues more than internal cues to stop consuming something. In a 2005 study, individuals who ate soup out of a self-refilling bowl ate 73% more than those who ate out of a normal bowl filled up by servers. But those who ate from the self-refilling bowls didn't feel any more satisfied. So a visual cue, like an endpoint, is better at telling you the right time to stop than your own sense of satisfaction. And because so many apps don't have an endpoint, you have to build your home screen around the eventuality of distraction. We check our phones a lot. Most of us drastically underestimate how often we do so. But technology might not always look this way. There are ideas for alternative interfaces that give you functional choices and are more transparent about how much time you'll lose with one action versus another.
But it's a really deep philosophical question of what is genuinely worth your attention on an interruptive basis? Do people even know how to answer that question? It's a really hard question. It's not something we think about.
But for now, it's a question that everybody needs to start asking. Thank you so much for watching. This has been
So it's up to you whether you want to gray screen your entire phone and delete a bunch of apps. But I found after doing some research, just looking into my own life, like there's apps that have infinite scrolling. There's like Apple News app on my phone, and I just like find myself scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And then after a while, I'm like, wait, this event was like 3 days ago, and I've just been scrolling and scrolling and just like mindlessly looking through, dumb article after dumb article, and just so much time is wasted. I moved my Facebook app from my home screen to like hidden inside of a folder on the next screen. And I check it less than once a day now, and I'm not missing anybody. So I know you post pictures of your cats and you really want me to see that, but I really don't care. And it's been a great tool for me. I haven't gone to the full gray screen yet because I love color. But if that happens, it might just have to happen. But as we're seeing addiction, understanding the apps that are on your phone and your student's phone. And students understanding the apps on your phone and how much time is spent on those apps and why you're on those apps. And I know like there's times when I'm in the office with Clint and he has to put something on the children's faith community website or Facebook page, and he's like, all right, I cannot get sucked into this bottomless vortex of stuff because he just has to go on and put it on there and then leave, because if he starts scrolling and it's like dumb video after dumb video after dumb video, you just get stuck there for hour after hour. Notifications, turning off, I think it's wise. Again, it's not a biblical rule, but I think there's wisdom in turning off a lot of those notifications. If you see yourself or your student, constantly checking their phone and it's just constantly buzzing every time, someone and one of their friends checked in at a restaurant at Yelp, who really cares? So you could turn those things off and really understand which notifications deserve to interrupt your day, and then set it at that. And texting, many teenagers when they're texting, there's this feeling that goes along with it that you have to always be on for your friends, right? You can't just put your phone away and have your friend possibly text you 20 times trying to get your attention about something that happened in their life or someone said about them, and like there's this emotional connection that says I have to always be there for my friends, right? I have to constantly be on for them. I can't miss something. And so having your cell phone with them all the time, so that if Susie, heard that John said this about so-and-so, that they get that information immediately. They're keeping their cell phone with them in bed, so as they're there in the middle of the night, if something breaks in the middle of the night, their friends can get a hold of them and they can be responsible right away. And this is an addictive thing. There's a study done by Dr. Gary Small who said that neuroimaging studies show that when a teen sends and receives texts, the same part of the brain lights up as an addict using heroin. There's a release of dopamine in their system that causes the feeling of pleasure or reward. And so this feeling, I've accomplished something, I've done something, when you're sending and receiving text messages, it releases that dopamine in their brain. It's like and it creates an addiction, right? So students, as you're evaluating your technology use, ask yourself, okay, is it okay if I just put my cell phone, in the corner and don't touch it for the next 2 hours? Is it okay if I charge my phone in the kitchen at night rather than my bedroom? And if the answer is no, like you have to go back and say, okay, am I being mastered by this technology? Has it become a tool for me to use to stay connected with the friends that I love and care about? Or has it become something that is intruded into my life and taken more than I was willing to give it? And so parents, I would encourage you guys to have a plan. I always thought it was a dumb idea to get kids pets on Christmas. Because I usually thought that was like parents don't have any idea what to get their kids for Christmas, so why not stop by the pound on the way home and get a dog? All my friends growing up, that's how they got their dogs, like all on Christmas morning, like, hey, we got a cat or a goldfish or a dog, and I was like, your parents just had no idea what to get you. And so don't get pets that way, and don't get cell phones that way. Like when it comes December and you're like, I have no idea to get them, they've been asking for a cell phone since they could walk, maybe this is the year we do, like that. There has to be a better plan than that. I don't care what your plan is, but that's like, it has to be higher than that, better than that. It can't just be, I don't know what else to get them, we'll finally get them that cell phone. Don't be pressured into it. Understand when it's right for your child to have it, your student to have it. I don't care if all their friends have it. they don't need it. Like we asked them how many students have a smart device and how many have a cell phone, how many have a tablet, how many have a computer in the room, and we're not sharing that information with you because we don't want it to be used against you, right? We don't want your students to be like, well, look at this, 43%. Like that's not going to be used. Like it's your decision. Have the plan, understand when it's right for your child, and then have like an ownership stake in that, right? Whether they fully buy the phone. Like you could put in ownership, like we'll help you pay for it, we'll help you pay for the bill, or we'll simply like we're paying to charge that phone. We have an ownership stake in that phone, right? It's not yours. It's a privilege. It's not a right. You don't deserve it. It's not your right as a human being that you have to have a cell phone. Like it can be taken away at any time, right? This is ours. If you're in our house under my rules, like I could take that cell phone away at any time. Like have that ownership stake in that. Lay down the ground rules, right? It's easy. How many of you in this room do have a cell? Not gonna. Never mind. Don't do that. I almost undid that. Whew. Close one. If you're in this room and you haven't given your child that cell phone yet, like you're in a prime position because they want that more than anything in the world right now. And so you could set a 10-page contract and they will gladly sign that thing. And they'll initial on every page and they'll say, yes, I'll only use it for 27 minutes a day and I'll text you every hour I'm gone. And like you have them right where you want them. But other parents, it's not too late to set those ground rules and to say, look, starting now, starting today, after this seminar is a good time to go home, reevaluate as a couple, reevaluate as a parent, and just say, okay, what are the guidelines that we're gonna institute in our home, and have a plan, understand what needs to happen. Parent tips. First, make sure it doesn't rule your life, right? You have to be that shining example, right? If everything's going to crumble apart, if you say, look, from the hours of 6 to 8 p.m., we're going to have a cell phone free, 2 hours, we're going to eat dinner, we're going to play a game, we're going to do whatever. If you have your cell phone and you're on that cell phone, like the entire system that you create is going to crumble. It's going to fall apart. But you have to show that it doesn't rule over your life. And do whatever is needed to make that happen. Set guidelines for yourself and for your family. How much time should be allowed on the internet? Does there need to be a device curfew? Is there a bedtime for the cell phone that's like after this time, like no technology, no internet? Should the phone be able to be in the bedroom at night, or does it need to be somewhere else? Ask your student how they are using their time on their devices. Like I always see you, face down in your phone or on your tablet or on your video game system. Like what are you doing on there? Like ask them. We had like one of the heartbreaking things in the survey when we asked how open are you with your parents, there's one person that wrote a 1 and they wrote they're not interested. And for a brief moment I was like, I wish this was not anonymous so I could go to that house and just like plead with the parent. Like you have to be interested. And so if you're thinking like my student doesn't want to talk to me, they don't want, like you may be right, they may not want to talk to you, but there's something in that relationship there that they're craving that you would be invested in their life, that you would understand what Fortnite is, and you would understand what an Instagram story is and why it's important that they post it when they try boba for the first time. Like to ask them these questions of why and what are you doing. I would encourage you to set up technology-free times, and I'm not going to give you a number that I think is good, but you evaluate that as a family. If that's once a day, if that's once a week, if it's you do the opposite and you have technology hour for the hour, and everyone's allowed on the computer or the video games for that 1 hour, and the rest of the time it's gone. Like whatever is right for your family, but just really as parents think through what is best for my family, what is healthy for us, what do we need, and it's going to be different for everybody. Right, there's some of you that's 3 hours, 4 hours a day is totally fine, totally normal, and you're not mastered by it. You could say no at any time. And there may be others of you that's like, okay, we're gonna have 30 minutes, and that's it. Like there's no right or wrong answer as long as we're not being mastered by our technology. Students, I would encourage you, like you guessed 4.2 hours you're on there. I would encourage you to start tracking that. Right, to just every week, maybe a couple times a year, just say, okay, I'm going to track how much time I'm on my device, how much time I'm on the internet, what I'm doing, and just like chart it out. Like, it's healthy to do with budgets, it's healthy to do with time, it's healthy to do with resources. So do that every once in a while. Sue. Yeah, we'll get to that. It's a good one. I'm going to try to butter up the students first so they don't throw things at me. Yeah. Students, evaluate your notification settings. Like, do you really need to know all those things? Like, every time someone likes your photo on Instagram, do you really need a notification? Or when you check Instagram during those technology times at your home, you can see that, 12 friends liked it or 400 friends liked it. Do you really need to know every single time someone does something, or can you shut some of those things off? And then submit to your parents, right? Having a phone is a privilege, it's not a right. Like, they're your parents for a reason. Like, here's the cool thing, students. They're responsible to God. And so if they make a dumb rule, God's gonna call them on it. Like, if they overstep their bounds, that's between them and God. Like, so you're like, all right, I don't agree with that. God may have words for you later, but I'll submit to that. Like, you can wash your hands. Like, it's between them and God. And that's far more persuasive than you, like, arguing, whining, complaining. Right? Just all right. Whatever you and God decide is best for me, I'll do that. That's far better. Submit to your parents. Next is fighting against insecurities. And this one wasn't really on my list of things to talk about until I started researching and just saw how huge of an issue this is. And 19% of our students have been bullied on the internet. 67% of those were girls and 33% were men, but there's a reality in much of the world and much of our culture that those numbers are way higher. And some of it may look like, schoolyard bullying from when we were kids, but a lot of it is more subtle and different. A lot of times, sometimes it's done by people that they know from school, and sometimes it's on these anonymous chat sites where you don't have any idea who that other person is, and they just see your picture and they're like, I don't like this about them, and they just start feeding your child lies. They're feeding them and causing them the questions. Someone said, the Time magazine article that said it's for those that maybe you hated homeroom, or maybe you hated gym class. Students today, it's like they never leave homeroom and then never leave gym class. And so areas where there's, they feel insecure, they feel like they're not up to par with the rest of society, like being constantly connected is like never, ever, ever being able to leave those situations, right? It's constantly there, constantly speaking into their lives. There's pressures of always being connected, and there's, like I said, there's some anonymous social networking sites that their phone buzzes, and your student is entering into a world of cruelty, insecurity, to like when we were kids, just turbocharged now, right? Because when I was growing up, if someone wanted to pick on me or say something to me, there's like a lot of filters that had to work through, right? They had to take a grudge to school. They had to find a place where they could tell it to me in private. They had to make sure the right people were around. There's a lot of things there. But now I can sit in my bedroom at 11 p.m. at night and just send off, random messages on some of these apps and just hurt people. So it's those things that some of you in this room faced as a child, or faced as an adolescent, just turbocharged now. And so there's studies that are massive studies that have just been done in recent months that talk about depression. And they talk about these fears and anxieties. And the more time you spend on your devices, the more those things are prevalent in your life, especially young girls. And so as girls are seeing these things, and they're posting pictures, and this picture got 11 likes, and the last one got 15, and so I must be not as beautiful as I once was, or my friends don't care about me. So much of these things are going through the minds, right? Going through them, and why did this not get as many likes? Or why did this person that liked all my last 4 pictures, now they don't like this picture? Why are these anonymous people sending me these messages, and are these things true about me? And the depression and the fear, the anxiety, the stress just goes through the roof. And like I said, especially in young girls. So you see like a lot of, you turn on the news and the effects of bullying, whether it be suicides or school shootings or other things. A lot of that is taking place not in gym class, not in homeroom, but on the internet and with these devices. So understand what doors, which of those doors are open into your student's life. And maybe there's none, and they're like, I'm good. I just, use the internet for Pinterest. But maybe there's these other, like, you've never heard of it. Do a quick Google search, and you'll see, okay, maybe this is one of those anonymous social sites that Jason was talking about. When we're constantly online, it becomes hard to develop healthy relationships. Face-to-face relationships is a huge way of how we are supposed to communicate. And I'll never say that, texting is bad, and I'll never say that, Facebook messaging is bad. We went down to Ecuador for our mission trip this summer, and they still sending us messages of what things are going on back there. And so I can't be face-to-face. And so where face-to-face isn't possible, the internet provides a gateway. But that can be dangerous because I can start to neglect the face-to-face relationships that I have here. And it's unhealthy for me as an individual. We have to have authentic, real friendships. We have to be able to talk to each other. We have to be able to be open and honest with each other, right? We can be whoever we want on the internet. We can masquerade as anyone, right? We can make ourselves sound awesome if we are limited to the number of characters that we can share. But building those real friendships, real relationships, cause us to be real, allows people the freedom to call out sin in our lives. When we hide behind a mask on the internet, it's really hard for those things to happen, really hard for them to take place. So parent tips, like ask your student, have you been bullied? Have people said things that have hurt you? Have there been things that have, hurt you? That someone has said, and really love on your child, right? Like, it's important for you as a child to give your student the affirmation that they need, right? To remind them of who they are in Christ, to remind them that you love them, to remind them that you care for them, to be there for them. Now, I'm not talking about, puffing them up and telling them you're the world's greatest violin player and you're, smarter than everybody else and you're more beautiful than all the other kids. First of all, my children, but we don't want to lie or to puff them up, but just the things that God says of true of them, remind them that they're true of them, and to give them that love and that affection, that attention that they're craving on the internet, and saying, look, you don't need to go to some stranger 5,000 miles away who likes your Instagram photos. Like, I can give you the affirmation that you need here, that you are, one of God's beautiful creatures. You are loved by me. You're loved by Him. You can give those things to your children. Seek to encourage them. Never stop communicating, right? Constantly be communicating with your child. If there's no communication happening right now, just start at the low level, right? Just build on whatever you have now. Take that next step to get a deeper relationship with your student, and over time you'll see it continue to grow. Student tips. I'd encourage you guys to develop and grow authentic relationships, evaluate your true friendships, and then get as much face-to-face time as possible, right? So when I was growing up, back in my day, we would get together at each other's houses and hang out. That was cool. That was fun for us to do. We would go places together. We would do things like that and have that face-to-face, and there's something beautiful about that. God created us to live in community, and although online community is great, I don't think it replaces the ability to have natural face-to-face community with our friends. So I'd encourage you guys to do that. And before I move on, if you are struggling with these fears, these worries, these insecurities, remember what Paul says to us in Philippians, don't worry about anything, but in everything through prayer and petition and thanksgiving, present your request to God, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. You guys ready for the fun one? Time for the pornography talk. Fighting against immorality, right? Immorality. We asked our students, and this is above average. So either our students are lying or we're doing a better job than the world. But 37% is 37% too high. So 37% have viewed pornography. And just for you guys, the average grade of the people taking this survey was 9th grade. So we have a really junior high heavy group right now. So the average grade in the 70 or so people that took the survey, the average was 9th grade. And 37% have viewed pornography before 63% no. Of the students who had viewed pornography, 64% men and 36% female. So not a huge difference. We used to think that guys struggled with, sexual immorality and girls struggled with gossip. In youth ministry, it's getting really close to 50-50 on each of those. Like, you have guys that are together and they're gossiping, and you have girls that struggle with this issue. Like, Satan is crafty in how he's trying to get in there, and as soon as we think we have it figured out, he's going to throw a curveball in there. And 24% of the students have hit a relationship from their parents. Not you guys as kids, but the other parents. Philippians 4:8-9 say, finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any moral excellence, and if there is anything praiseworthy, dwell on these things. Do what you have learned and received and heard from me, and the God of peace will be with you. I think we lie to ourselves when we're talking about fighting sin, and I think we think it's harder than it is. And the reality is, it's only hard because we choose to not do it God's way. It becomes increasingly easy if we follow God's path for fighting temptation in Scripture. But when we try to do things like fight alone, we fail over and over and over and over again. When we try to do things like not tell our parents, we fail over and over again. Right? You can have a little, I was in college, and instead of the swear jar, we had like the sexual immorality jar, and there's people that, like, every time they were tempted and every time they thought an impure thought, they would put money in that jar. Like, there's money just constantly being put in there. Like, unless you address the heart issue, like, it's constantly going to be an issue. But if we fight biblically, right, if we confess our sins to one another, if we seek accountability, if we run from sexual immorality, we will begin to find victory in these areas. Right? It's James 5:16 that says, therefore, confess your sins to one another and pray for one another so that you may be healed. The prayer of a righteous person is very powerful in its effect. And so, if you're a student in this room and you're enslaved to some sort of immorality, whether it be pornography or something else, like, you can keep trying to fight alone, but I'm going to tell you, you're not going to have the success that God wants for you until you start fighting biblically. Right? And that's going to require awkward conversations, right? No one wants to tell their parents that this is an issue they've been struggling with. No one wants to confess, like, I can't have a cell phone anymore because I can't control myself when I have a cell phone. No one wants to say, look, I know you trusted me with the internet in my room, but you really should not trust me with the internet in my room because I cannot handle the temptation of constantly having the internet right there with no accountability. Right? Those are a little bit awkward conversations, but you know what? I guarantee if you have that conversation, you will not regret it. Right? There may be consequences. You may lose the phone for a period of time or until you're 40 years old, but I guarantee once you have that conversation, you begin to do things in a biblical way, there's not going to be regret. Right? Because you're freed from bondage. You're freed from that sin. You're not enslaved to it any longer. And now you have the help that God has provided for you in your parents, in accountability partners, in leaders here at church that can help you, guide you to what to do next. Right? This is something that is absolutely devastating if left unchecked. And so be willing to have those conversations. Parents, if you think it's awkward to have the pornography talk or the sex talk or the sexting talk, and you don't even not sure what it is, and you have to ask your students more what it is so you understand, like that's sound not like a fun Sunday night, but it's something that needs to happen, right? To be able to say, look, let's talk about these things. Let's talk about these apps that you have on your phone. Let's talk about these messages that I saw someone sent you. Let's dive into this a little bit, and let's get, it's going to be a little bit messy. It's going to be a little ugly. We're all going to feel a little uncomfortable. But after this, God is really going to, doing things God's way is going to allow righteousness to flow in. So I would encourage you guys to not run away from this, not because not think it's too awkward, but just like, you know what? Jason said we should have this conversation when we get home tonight. So your students are expecting it. So now it's going to be awkward if you don't bring it up. You're welcome. So if your plans were to go home and watch the NBA playoffs, not anymore. "79% of pornography is viewed in the home, 9% at school, 7% in other places, and only 5% in friends' house." So under your roof, most of this is being viewed. These are not ours. These are other studies, not with our students. Over 50% of pornography is viewed with a cell phone. 51% of girls felt pressure from a guy to send sexual text messages. 51%. 64% of American men view porn at least monthly. And whether you claim to be a Christian or not, the numbers hardly change at all. The initial age of porn exposure is 11. A recent survey of 800 young people showed that teenage boys view it 2 to 3 times a week on their phone or in their bedroom computer. 2/3, in this same study of those 800 people from London, 2/3 of those are between 11 and 13. And 83% have stumbled on it accidentally. Right? It's not hard to accidentally stumble through some of these things. And there's some websites that can be used for really, really good things and really, 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 really bad things. And if you want more information, you can come talk to me. I didn't put it out there because a lot of the students didn't write it in as popular ones, but there's certain websites that are like a catch-all that they could talk about anything from collecting Beanie Babies to hardcore pornography. And so you could ask, like, hey, what is this website that keeps popping up in your history? And they say, oh, that's why I just use it for video games. Like, that might not be the only thing that they're exposed to on there. I'm not saying that they're using it for those things, but we as parents have to be aware that something that could be used as Beanie Babies or video games could also be used for pornography. And understanding that, because like you could click on a link in a chat room and they say it's for something, and it could be for something completely different, and lead astray there. A study done by the Christian Post for Campus Crusade said 90% of teenagers have viewed porn. And that's something that we could see in our survey. The older students get, the more likely they are to have seen porn. So when they start out and they're in 7th grade, like the likelihood is still there. It's, again, I said every grade, every age, gender, doesn't matter. Like their exposure has been there, but the likelihood increases as time increases. And so by the time I got to college and we were talking about this in our dorm room and we were fighting through it together, there's every single person on my wing. So how many people are on a wing? 60, 50? 50-ish? 40? 12? 40? We'll go with 50. That sounds better. Only one had not seen pornography up to that point. And so by the time you get to 18, 19 years old, like the likelihood of having seen it, whether you've stumbled on it, whether you viewed it once, or whether this is something you're enslaved to, it's happening. And it's not a matter of if, but when it's going to happen. 80% of 15 to 17-year-olds have been exposed to hardcore pornography. 67% of men and 59% of women said that porn was acceptable. Like it's okay. 80% of teenagers say that porn is too easy to access or stumble upon on the internet. 70% say that it is viewed as normal by their peers at school. And what are the effects of this? It absolutely devastates the sex life that God has designed for you. It absolutely crushes it. And we could do an entire sermon just on this point here. But replacing what God has given us as a gift by a perversion of the devil is going to lead to disastrous consequences. And you as a 13-year-old in this room may think that you're not getting married for another 10 years. Like the trends and the things that you're filling your mind with now will affect that marriage in 10 years. Right? Like you're building your foundation now. Like the images that you're seeing, the things that you're exposing yourself to are going to stay locked in your mind, right? Those things, that's not reality. That's a perversion of reality. And so God has given us a great, amazing, fantastic gift, but he's given us a place for that gift, and that's inside of a God-honoring marriage between a man and a woman. And so when we fill ourselves with these, it leads to devastating consequences. 56% of divorce cases had at least one person who was addicted to porn, right? So not just casually, but 56% of divorce cases, someone that is hooked on to that. More than 50% of those that view it on a regular basis report losing interest in sex with their partner. Severe clinical depression is twice as frequent among pornography users rather than non-pornography users. 90% of therapists see problems related to pornography usage. 94% of therapists see a rise in people who are addicted to pornography. And this is something that I think the world is finally grabbing onto and realizing is an issue, because it seemed like for a long time it was, when I was growing up, I think I was homeschooled, but hearing things on the radio back then about schools talking about how some of these urges are more normal. I think even the world is catching up now and saying this is devastating. Like this is not normal. This is not something that should really be accepted to the level that we are accepting it. So even the world is catching up there. And then there's a reality of online relationships, and it's super easy. Like I had my first cell phone, I think I was like 17 years old, and it didn't have texting. I didn't get texting till I was in college, after I was already dating Rachel, and I thank God for that. Because there's a lot of girls I had crushes on growing up, but I was a little shy boy, and so I never like talked to them. And you can't start a relationship if you don't talk to someone. But it's really easy to send like a winky face emoji. How's it going? And so, although I never had the courage to like walk across, the schoolyard and like tell this girl my undying love for her, and I think I could have built up the courage in my bedroom, like 10 o'clock at night, like psyching myself up for it to like send a like, hey, how are you text. Like I think I could have done that. But the ease of it leads to a lot of trouble. Like I think that fear and those butterflies that we feel, and that worry of, is she going to say yes? Is she not going to say yes? I think that prevents us from making a lot of dumb mistakes and chasing after people that are not right for us. I've told this to the students over and over again. If I had my desires that I really wanted in high school, and the girls I was chasing after, then chasing after is used very loosely, because again I was shy and basically just like look at a person across the room and be like, someday. But if I had been able to pursue those, like none of them are living lives that I would be comfortable being married to now, right? So my shyness prevented me from possibly making a gigantic mistake. But now, because it's so easy, a lot of those barriers are gone, which teenagers are super happy about, because you don't have to be like the bold guy that's like, I'm going to walk across the hall and ask this girl to dance that everyone was afraid to. Like now we can build up the confidence to say, I'm going to send her a text message. It becomes easy, but it leads to, it could possibly lead to danger. Why? Because there's very little chaperoning, right? Like when you're when you're on a date, maybe there's, you have your brother or sister tag along, or, there's other people in public, and you can say like, first of all, don't let your children date till they're 40. But there's very little chaperoning. Like if it's a schoolyard crush, like they're on the schoolyard. Like, so there's people that are somewhat have eyes on the situation. But now with cell phone, and if you let them have the cell phone in their bedroom and they're on it at 12 o'clock at night, there's very little chaperoning going on there. And so things can be said, and things can be requested, and things can be sent that could have long-lasting effects. It could lead to infatuation. Like I can, anyone can be someone can totally different when they have the opportunity to type out a text message, review that text message, edit that text message, refine that text message, and then choose to send that text message. You can make yourself sound like the world's greatest guy, right? You could look up poems on the internet and you could, type those out in a text, not giving you any ideas, guys. Poems on the internet and like text those and like, wow, like he's so, romantic and thoughtful and like he's just Googling like ways to woo a girl. Like it's easy to get infatuated with something like that. It's not real. But when you have to go face to face and you stumbling over your words and you're fumbling and doing all these goofy, weird things that teenagers do, it prevents a lot of that infatuation from happening. But it leads to this feeling of adventure, of excitement. Emotions begin to run wild. They think the person is the answer to their terrible life, and they will fulfill their lack of love. And then we'll just briefly touch on sexting. 46% of teens, not in our group, but other teenagers, said that sexting is a part of everyday life for teenagers. And this can lead to just apps like once something leaves that device, like you've lost control forever. And so that could be words, pictures, whatever. Once it leaves their hand, it can be gone forever. And you could read on the internet story after story after story after story of, guy convinces a girl that he loves her forever. Guy gets the girl to send, messages or pictures or whatever. And then the girl breaks up with the guy, and so the guy sends it to the whole football team. And those are things that you can't undo. Like you can't undo that. So talking with your students about those realities and building barriers against them. Parent tips: don't be afraid to ask for help. Nothing your student struggles with will ever surprise us. I guarantee you. Like there's no level that will like shock us. Like we've been around sin, we've seen sin, we know sin, and it won't happen. Like the devil uses the same tricks over and over and over again, and I've heard story after story after story, and nothing is shocking anymore. And so feel free to reach out for help to a Bible study teacher, one of the pastoral staff. Here we have tons of booklets on the subject in the church offices. Feel free to reach out for help. There's tons of help even on the internet. I would encourage you to make sure those are from godly sources, but you can do that as well. There's the elder board here that every once in a while their phone numbers are published in the bulletins. You can look there. Like there's tons of resources available to you. Again, this is something that 90% of teenagers say that they've viewed it, so it's not gonna. It's okay. I assume that by the time, there'd be a huge portion of you that would need help from time to time in dealing with these things. It's not gonna shock us or surprise us. I would encourage you to check parental restrictions for websites, apps, music, and things like that. You can find those just by a simple Google search, or if you want to type out HT201304 in your browser, you could do that as well. But Apple or Android, the parental restrictions are huge. I have my phone with parental restrictions on it. Why? Because I don't want to fall into something, right? Those websites that can be a portal for Beanie Babies or video games or pornography, like it blocks it. So if you can access adult content on this, I want it blocked. And so Curtis Lewis has my passcode, and sometimes that keeps me from going on a website that I want to go onto that is, pure and righteous, and I'm like sitting there like frustrated, but it protects me. I have zero shame standing in front of all of you guys and saying, look, I have Curtis have the passcode on my phone because I don't trust myself 24/7, 365. Like just the reality. Like if that's too many hours to just say like, yeah, Jason, you're the first man in human history that conquered sexual temptation. Like congratulations, you've done it. You're on year like 8. Great job. Like here's a little badge for you. Like it's not reality. And so I don't want in a calamity or a collision of bad decisions to be able to fall into something. And so Curtis has that passcode. I have passcodes for other guys. Like they can't download apps without me typing in my password. Like that's how it is, and that there's nothing wrong with that. Husbands, there's nothing wrong with giving your wife the code. Wives, there's nothing wrong with giving your husbands the code and the access. Like let's just block this. And every once in a while, we may not be able to view that, Fox News article about gay marriage being accepted in whatever state because it hits too many red flags, but like that's okay. We didn't really want to read that anyway. Set the Google and YouTube safety mode. So google.com/preferences, and that will keep things from accidentally popping up or intentionally popping up there with Google search or YouTube search. Get a list of all passwords. So Facebook password, Instagram password, Snapchat password, whatever the other Pinterest password is. Like every single thing that you require a password for on your phone or on device, like parents, you should have a list of every single one of those passwords. Students, you should give that list willingly to your parents. Like, yes, take this, check it periodically. It doesn't have to be every day. It could be every month, could be, once a year, but as long as your student doesn't know, like tomorrow's the day it's getting checked and it can happen at any moment, it's gonna really help deter things. So students, give that willingly and don't change it. Don't try to pull the wool over your parents' eyes. If you want to build trust and they go to log into your Facebook account and they're going to do their monthly check or whatever they decide is right and the password is changed, you can assume that there's going to be a break of trust there, right? And it's better to come clean with why you changed it before you changed it. Talk to them about changing it before you try to have to backtrack and think of some lame excuse about why you changed it and shouldn't get in trouble and shouldn't get your Facebook taken away. Use parental controls to restrict the ability to download new apps without your passcode. I would highly encourage this. This is not a biblical command. I can't make it a biblical command. But I would highly encourage you to restrict the ability to download apps onto your student's phone or tablet, whatever device they have, without you punching in your passcode. This gives you time to figure out what it is. It gives you time to Google it to see if your student's explanation matches up with other explanations about what it is. You can easily search Parents Guide to and then fill in the blank, and you'll find parents reviewing these apps, saying how children use these apps, saying what it could be really used and twisted for. I think they're out of the App Store now, but there was a huge flood of fake apps years ago where I need a calculator for my calculus class, and it would look like a calculator and work like a calculator, but you typed in a specific series of numbers and it unlocked and it went to something completely different. And so students are like, hey, I need a calculator, and their parents are like, okay, we can have that. But if a quick Google search of that calculator app would have said this is a fake app, and if you type in the code, you can get around and see different things. I think Apple, the Today Show did a huge expose on it, and Apple's like, we'll get rid of all these. So if your child has 2 calculators on their phone, ask why, but I think those are gone. But in their place, more immorality has come. Do Google research for apps and websites. There's also, I didn't put it in my notes, but commonsensemedia.org, where you can search for some of these things. And then understand the dangers of allowing other people to bring devices into your home. So if your kids are having, friends spend the night at their house, and you've set all the restrictions on your child's phone, you have no idea what their parents have set on their phone. So don't be afraid that, hey, in this house we have a rule that at 10 p.m. all cell phones go in the kitchen, they stay in the kitchen, or all of them go in the dad's nightstand right next to his gun. And that's just the family rule, and that's what we do. That's what everyone does. Unless it has my blockers on it or whatever, we're not going to allow it in there. And just be firm. And if they don't want to spend the night, then you probably dodged a bullet. Student tips: be honest with your parents about how much freedom you should have. I know this could lead to awkwardness and weird conversations, but just be honest and say, I can't have this right now. I'm not responsible enough to have this. I'm, even if I'm just wasting way too much time. So just keep it away from me, or there's finals coming up next week and I don't want to be distracted, or I've been using this to bully people. I've been using this to view pornography. I've been, people are picking on me. Whatever it is, just be open and honest with your parents about how much freedom you have. You've admitted that your parents aren't the best at checking in on you. And so you can, help them out and say, look, I can't handle this right now. There should be no shame in that. Do not run from accountability. Give your parents that list of passwords in an effort to build trust. Never delete or alter your history. If you go on like search history on Facebook or Instagram or Google or whatever it is, and like the search history is gone, that should be a red flag. So students, just to build trust, don't try to hide those things, because it's gonna tear down trust rather than build trust. All right, we're rounding the finish line. Fighting against predators. 89% of parents in our youth ministry have had some form of conversation with their students about protecting themselves from online predators. 11% have not had that conversation until you get home later today and have it. And then it will be a full 100%. 55% of students in our group follow people on social media they've never met in real life. I do too. Like, I follow people I've never met in real life. But you as a parent have to understand, okay, how are you going to handle that? And there's different ideas that I'll give you in a little bit. 24% have been sent sexually explicit comments, messages, or pictures. 1 Peter 5:8 says, "Be sober-minded, be alert. Your adversary, the devil, is prowling around like a roaring lion, looking for anyone he could devour." And so the internet is just full of awful, awful, awful people hiding in their homes, hiding behind masks, hiding their identity with zero filters that can say and do whatever they want to do. You need to protect yourself against those things. If you lived in a bad neighborhood where people are known to break into homes and steal and do terrible things, you would not leave your front door unlocked. So with the internet, where people can come in through that device and enter into your child's mind, don't leave that unlocked. Don't just leave that open door there and say anyone can come and talk to my 13-year-old son about whatever they want to. That's a very, very dangerous thing to have happen. And building a good defense is crucial. And understanding the potential, the level of potential that your student has for predator to come in, and whether or not they ever meet face-to-face with that predator or just through messages, like, you have to understand the doors that are on that device. And it's, okay, this app is a potential door for a predator. This app is a potential door for a predator. This app is a potential door for a predator. And understand those things. Restrict those things. Parent tips. Decide what level of protection is needed for your family. So you could say, look, we're not going to have any websites or apps that allow interaction between any sort of users. So you can go on ESPN.com and I don't know what else you'd want to go on. I don't know. What? Yeah, you could use the calculator app. And like that could be totally fine. Like that for some of you, maybe that might be the best step. Like, we're not going to have any interaction with other people. So no chat rooms, no comments, no private messages, none of this stuff. Zero interaction with other people. We're only using it to consume information that is put out through regular media channels, and we're not going to participate in any sort of social media. That could be a very wise thing for some of you. Others of you may say, like a rule, you're only allowed to friend people that you've met in real life. So unless you know them, you've seen them, you go to school with them, you go to soccer practice with them, like, you're not going to be friends with them. And so that 50-year-old guy that lives up in Montana in a cabin in the woods by himself isn't like liking your 13-year-old daughter's, photos of her soccer game. Like, that's just a little too creepy and weird. And so not to allow it. Or you could say, like, look, you can follow people that you've never met in real life, but you cannot have any sort of communication with them. So no chatting, no direct messages, none of that stuff. So you have to decide what is right. Check your students' devices for apps that allow for anonymity and disappearing content. So it's your job as a parent to see what apps are acceptable. If my daughter had a smartphone right now, I would never in a million years allow an app that allows students or anyone to anonymously chat with another student. because they're just zero filters, zero consequences for anything that they could say to one of my daughters, and I don't want to open that door. I would also never let them be on an app that has disappearing content, meaning that someone could send them a message and after 30 seconds it disappears, or a photo and after 10 seconds it disappears, because there's no way for me to help see what's on there. And so I want there to be some level of accountability there. So Snapchat, since it was mentioned, is a huge one that just allows for this anonymous communication, or this disappearing content, rather. And it's not something that I would let my child have. You can have that discussion with your family, with your child, and decide if this is right for them. But then Instagram has anonymous or disappearing content, the stories, or the private mess. Oh, that's right. So just understanding the reality of those things. Like, yeah, Instagram, it has that as well. You have to decide. You have to look through your student's phone, do like an hour worth of Google searching for all those apps, look them up on Common Sense Media, see what they could potentially be used for, and then decide as a family which ones are appropriate and which ones are not appropriate. Because you don't want to have the door open to evil and sin and just come in and really get at the mind of your student. Talk to your student about when it's inappropriate to use location services. Just a rule that I got scared of this in college because people were posting pictures and they're like, I'm at the mall, and they would tag themselves at the mall, and then there are people that could see that online are like, oh, sweet, so they're not home, and they would go rob their house. Now it's used for much worse than that. They can say, I'm at the mall with my 3 friends, and they take a selfie picture, and there's no parents there, and so a predator can go and say, oh, these 3 young girls are at the mall, and there's no authority figure around. Like, this is an easy target. So I use location services, but I post it like when I'm back at home and like had a great time, here last week, so that way I'm protecting myself. And so don't ever use location services at your home. And so like on Instagram, you could put like, I'm at home doing my homework, and you take a picture of your homework, and location services are on, and it says, Casa de McClure on the top of it, and someone could click on that and they could see exactly where Clint lives. Exactly. And so you can have, there's apps, Facebook, Instagram, other apps that have these location services, and you're the parent. I would turn them off. I would not allow them to be there, but understanding at least when it's appropriate to have those things on there. Learn how to use Location Finder on your student's phone. Most smartphones now have some sort of location finder. I can look on my phone, Rachel could look on her phone, and we could find out exactly where each other are. So if for some reason you use your student, if they're at the mall and they're supposed to call you every 30 minutes, and you can use location services and say they're not at the mall, they're at some neighborhood across the street from the mall. I don't like that. You could use location services to find out exactly where they are. If they're in danger, you can find them. So figure out how to use those for your student-specific device. Most of them should have it on there. Student tips. Talk to your parents immediately if someone sends you explicit content or questionable material or asks you to do something you're not comfortable with, and allow your parents to act like parents and defend you and protect you and go to bat for you and do whatever is needed to handle that situation. And again, don't run from accountability. Nearing the finish line. Almost there. Fighting with some tools. This is, I'm guessing, what most of you thought you were coming to receive. But again, I want to have you guys understand in your mind that nothing is more powerful than the gospel, right? So when it comes to fighting these things, you have to do dirty work as a parent to get into the nitty-gritty of your child's life, bring the gospel to the darkest place of your child's heart, and use that, because all these tools are just going to be temporary walls that restrict your student for a matter of time. None of these are perfect. None of them are going to, they're going to be able to block 100% of what your child sees, but the gospel is effective in fighting against sin. I would encourage you guys to just spend time researching when they come to you because you've not allowed them to download new apps and they want to download this new app that you've never heard of before. 5 minutes of Google research, figure out what it is, take the time, invest the time in figuring out what is on your student's phone. Go home and do it now for the 4,000 apps that are on their phone. You might spend the rest of your night doing it, but it's worth it. It's worth it to do it. Become acquainted with the popular apps and games sections of the Apple and Android stores. This is something that I do on a regular basis because I work with teenagers. Like what was popular in my day isn't popular anymore. Back when I first started youth ministry, Facebook was like cutting edge and brand new and all the students were on it. And now only parents are on it. So if I want to know what is popular and current, like going on to those popular sections of those stores really, really helps me understand, okay, these are the things that are there that I need to be aware of. And just so you know, there's so much more that we could tell you about specific apps to be aware of and things like that, but we made the conscious decision to not share the names of dangerous apps that were not listed in that top 8. Just because I don't want to put ideas in students' heads. I don't want to put ideas in parents' heads about things that they could access. I don't want them to go home and remember that name and it just months later at a weak moment, they're just like, oh yeah, Jason mentioned that name and this is where you could find this, or where you could interact in this way and where you could do these things. So there's a lot more information I could give you, but I've chosen not to in this setting because I don't want to potentially fill someone's mind with something that could be used for evil. So if you want to have conversations afterwards, I'll totally be willing to do that. If there's certain things that you're looking up on your student's phone and you want to email me and ask, what about this app? I would love to help you in any way possible with those things, but I didn't want to tempt you as parents or tempt you as students with material that is dangerous. Oh, back on time, there's a website called thesourceforparents.com. They use the number 4 instead of the word 4, thesourceforparents.com, again with the number 4 and not the word 4. And they do, just spend some time once a month, once a quarter, just browsing through articles. They have articles about some of these popular things that we've mentioned here, and they're always refreshing the content with what's new and what else is out there. And then again, don't forget to check those parental restrictions and privacy settings on your phone. That takes time, and it takes learning, and it takes feeling sort of like a monkey trying to use a cell phone when you're trying to navigate through all these controls. But YouTube that's one of the good things about YouTube is you could just YouTube how to set up parental controls on an iPhone, 6, and there's some guy that's like, here's how you do it, and it's real easy, and you can just follow it right there and be there. Boundaries, setting those boundaries, setting when it's okay to have the internet, where it's okay to have the internet, what you should do, what apps are allowed, what apps are not allowed, setting up those boundaries. There's Engage, which is this course by Kirk Cameron that I have not personally done. It just came out, I think, on Thursday or Friday. But some people have seen the longer extended movie of this that Kirk did, and this is now a course built on that, so going far more in depth than what I'm going here. I think it's like $35, but you see the address for that on there, thecouragecourses.com/p/engage. Also, I put on your other tips and resources page, Plugged In. You can, if you're video games or movies or music or things like that, you can go on Plugged In and see what other God-honoring people think of those things. Not up here, but on your sheet, Help and Accountability for Pornography, Covenant Eyes, Internet Safety, XXX Church. Those are things that can help with those issues, can track on your computer, can send accountability reports. I get accountability reports from a number of guys every single week. They get in my inbox and they say, this was the level of so-and-so's internet search this time. They tell me if it ever gets uninstalled. They tell me how many hours. They tell me what hours, and all those things. So if something comes up and it doesn't look right, I can call them. I can ask them about it. I had on my computer and some Clint called me on something once, and he's like, what is, I forget the name of the website, and I was like, oh my goodness, I have zero idea. And then it was like a cooking website. But it had like this, like in the context of accountability partners, like I forget what the website name was, but it sounded like not good. And then I was like, figured out later, oh, that's that cooking website. They should probably change their name. I was like, I have no idea, man, I promise. And then there's other apps that may be helpful. They're listed as well. But one I wanted to spend a little bit more time on is called Circle. It's called Circle. And this is in partnership with Disney to really like give you as parents ownership of what goes on in your home and on your students' devices. I have a short little video, and then I'll talk about it a little bit more, and then I think we'll be done.
Before the internet, growing up was pretty simple.
But give a kid a device and it's like,
What? I'm doing my homework.
just let me finish this level.
Did someone change the Wi-Fi password again?
But all my friends have Snapchat.
Basically, kids are always online.
Just a second, somebody tag me in a photo.
And that's why there's Circle.
What?
Circle, an amazing little gadget that pairs with your Wi-Fi and lets you control every device in your home, no matter what kind.
So can you set a time limit on Netflix?
Yep,
Can you filter out bad websites?
you betcha.
Can you pause the internet?
Yes.
What about tablets?
Covered.
Smartphones?
Covered.
Chromebooks? So what about scheduling a bedtime where the internet magically disconnects, but just for the kids' devices, so they actually go to bed on time like they're supposed to?
What? That's a yes.
Whoa.
It's basically the ultimate internet pausing, Instagram limiting, bedtime enforcing, homework helping, save the day device that is super duper simple to set up.
Nice.
Did I say it was simple?
Yes, you did.
It's pretty much the most awesome thing ever. Meet Circle. Parenting just got a little bit easier.
Just a second.
This is I think just a fantastic tool, and it came out. I'm not sure how long ago, but I was researching it when it first came out, and being able to do all these things. And it can, like, one of the things that's really incredible about it. Say you want to give your child an hour of YouTube time a day, no matter which device they're on, no matter if they go in the YouTube browser or the YouTube app, like it will limit them to 1 hour. And so they decide they can, like, I'll use an hour on the app and then an hour on this computer and then an hour here and then an hour here and like figure out ways to get around it. I'm sure eventually some super tech kid is going to figure out a way around it. But for the most part, it works really, really well. There was a huge glaring error when I first researched it, but they fixed that. And that was you could just turn off your Wi-Fi and just go on your cellular data, and then you could get around to everything. And then, because this hooks up to your router, so you go on the way and make sure you have a router that's compatible, but they try to make as many as possible compatible. But now they have this other thing called Disney Circle Go, and you put it on that device, and there's a $5 a month fee for that, but it carries all of those settings over on their device, so whether they're at their friend's house, whether they're up late at night, whatever, the same restrictions that you set up at home, now follow them everywhere. And so you could set up simple things and say, like, my child, I want them to be able to access, websites that are appropriate for teens and under, and it does just like a general thing. Or you could say there's specific websites that I only want them to be able to go on, faith2u.com. Or I definitely do not want them to go on, this website. There's too much stuff that's questionable on there, and it's not for some reason getting picked up by the blockers. You can have it so it restricts which types of apps are downloaded. Again, the times. You could set a bedtime so that at 10 o'clock every single night, the internet doesn't work on your child's phone. You can pause the internet. So if you're trying to have family game night and Susie is texting away or constantly on the internet, you can hit pause and it will pause it until you unpause it, or you want them to clean their room and they don't want to clean their room, like just pause it and it's done. I'm really, really impressed by it. Again, this is not a foolproof thing. It's not gonna keep them from being tempted by different things, but it's a tool that can help you as a parent protect your children. Any questions? Yes. Oh, I should explain that. So Meet Circle is a device that you hook up to your router that costs $100, a one-time fee of $100 for that device. And then if you want the Disney Circle Go option, then that's $5 a month. So there's no monthly fee for the home unit, and there's no one-time fee for the mobile unit. Does that make sense? I was supposed to look that up, and I totally forgot. I don't know. All right, Clint will look it up. Oh yeah, and it tracks screen time, and it tracks what they're viewing, and it sort of categorizes them. And so you can say like they spent 45 minutes looking at educational websites as a research project for their paper on fishes, or they spent 4.5 hours on Roblox, or however you say that. $5 monthly for up to 10 devices. So if you have more than 10 devices, spread the wealth. Does anyone in here have Circle? A few of you. Any other? Yes. Oh, nice. That's really cool. That's really cool. No. It was for us only. She said it works for any device that comes into your home. So if you're not home and like all of a sudden Rachel's boyfriend's device walks through the door, like you'll get a notification like Fabio just entered your home. What? Yeah. Did you say yes? Yes. Any last questions? Yes. Yes. Here's the first 4: Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, Facebook. Facebook is like a social media website. And like new features are added to these all the time. So if you I checked into Instagram 3 years ago, it's totally different now, including those disappearing messages that Clint mentioned. And then the next 4 would be Clash Royale. It's a game. Discord, which is like a semi-anonymous sort of chat thing where you could say whatever you want to say. A lot of our students, I think, use it around gaming. Then Fortnite, which is a game where I heard you kill people. Students like, don't tell my mom to take away Fortnite. I won't say who it is, but it's his birthday today. And Roblox is like a... How do you say it? Roblox? I'm sorry. Roblox. Well, then what is it? Explain it to me. It's like an online gaming social... Yeah. Like Minecraft, but worse. So apparently our students don't have good taste. Yes, Sue. Yeah. And that's like, I think I put it in there to make sure you check the privacy settings. Now that I'm up here, I don't know if I said that today, but all these have privacy settings, and I forget what the exact statistic is, but that you're not supposed to have social media until you're 13. Sorry, there's any 12-year-olds in the room. You just lost your Facebook. But you're not supposed to have it until you're 13. And then from the ages of 13 to 18, it's like 70% don't have it set to private. And so meaning if someone just searches their name or searches searches a location or a friend of a friend, they could see everything. So you want to check those privacy settings and make sure it's something you're comfortable with. And again, spend the time doing it because it's well worth it, rather than dealing with consequences in the future. Yes, Sue? Yeah, Facebook tells me like once every month, like, we've updated your privacy settings. Like, gee, thanks, Facebook. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah, so if you checked last years ago, it's completely irrelevant. We're gonna have the same conference in a year, and it will be completely different because everything will change. Yes. It's like it's yeah, a game, and there's interaction within that game. The Minecraft type game, like an immersive world type thing where you can have a character and they can do a bunch of nerdy things. Samuel, and then we'll go to Kaylee. Ah, gotcha. Sounds like tons of fun. Kaylee. Yeah, absolutely it is. Right. Yeah. And once something is on the internet, it's out of your control forever. One more question? Yes. Yeah, absolutely. There's a thing that's a group of friends will go out to dinner, and everyone puts their cell phones in the middle, like on a tower, and then the person that grabs for their cell phone first, like if there's a notification they just can't ignore, they buy dinner. So if you want to invite me to dinner and do that, I have the watch, so I can get away with it. Sneak that in there. All right, let me close this in prayer, and then, you guys will be out of here. Thank you for enduring through the food being late, and it feels really hot in here. I don't know if that's just me. But thank you guys for being here.